There was no one who was going to work harder than Gerald Ford, and no one who would be a better teammate than Gerald Ford. He prided himself in giving everything he had to what he was doing.
I think when you look at his childhood and the things that he's interested growing up, many of them are team activities, whether it's sports or whether it's scouts. He's kind of drawn to that. He excels in that area. I think he really valued relationships and communicating with people. And you see that, during his time in Congress as well. He had a really good reputation for kind of working across the aisle and working across party lines to make things happen. And I think a lot of that came from that kind of education he got as a student athlete.
At the end of his freshman year, he had been voted by his coaches, the most promising player of the freshman team. And it was this big silver football trophy that was handed to him at the end of his freshman year. At the end of his senior year, at the end of the football season, his fellow players, his teammates got together and voted him the most valuable player and handed him a little yellow ribbon with a silver football dangling from it. And he always said for the remainder of his life that award was probably the award he was most proud of having received, because his fellow teammates voted him that. The people he played beside, the people he sweated alongside, that he bled alongside, they are the ones who saw in him what they believed to be worthy of MVP, and they voted him that.
So Ford has offered 3 different positions, 3 different national professional football teams ask him to become part of the team. I think he knows that he's one injury away from losing all of that. I think he knows that he can't really achieve his goal, which is to be a lawyer and to help people and to work for justice. Maybe he feels he can't do that on the football field.
I think Gerald Ford made a good choice by turning down the NFL, because in 1935, the NFL then was not what the NFL is today. Big emphasis on player safety. It was a rougher game back then. Ford loved football, and Ford would have loved to continue to play football, but Ford had, through football, the opportunity to go to law school.
Looking at how it all turned out, I think most would agree he made the right decision. But gosh, as a young kid who's grown up during the Great Depression, is offered a whole bunch of money to go play football, I'm sure it was a hard decision to make, but maybe for him not so much, because he knew what his goal was and he stuck to that path.
He was not going to leave football behind. He was going to Yale to coach the junior varsity team, to be a scout for the varsity football team, and to coach boxing. So he wasn't leaving the athletic field behind, but he was moving into the law classrooms. That represented a solid career, one he could stay with for the remainder of his life, which he did.
Well, Gerald Ford was an athlete from a very early age. So when you look at his involvement in sports, whether it's in high school or college, I think those lessons that he learned were really important in what we look for in a leader in our country.
Being an athlete taught Gerald Ford lessons that he carried with him for the rest of his life, into his law career, his congressional career, and into the White House.
Being coachable and listening to what other people had to say, as well as being a good teammate, working really hard, learning how to win and lose gracefully.
The value of teamwork, that you have to work with people, many of whom you might not agree with, but you have to find a way to be agreeable and to work with them. He learned a sense of fair play, a sense of fairness and justice.
So I think all of those lessons really were important as he was kind of figuring out who he wanted to be. And they're really the qualities that are necessary when you're leading a country, especially leading a country through such a tumultuous time.
Gerald Ford was by nature, by wiring, a competitive person. You look at his professional career in Congress and in the presidency, he was ambitious, competitive. He wanted to be in positions of leadership. People recognized that in him from his youth up, and they would see something in him that differentiated him from others. and someone in whom they could invest with hopes of receiving something for their investment. And whether it was in Boy Scouts, on the athletic field, in the Navy, in Congress, older people saw in him something that was different and worthy of their time and their effort. That works itself out in part in the camaraderie and in the competition, in the physical activity of sports.